the shared territory of the Qualicum and Sonawas First Nations, and we thank them for allowing us to live, work, and play. And our beautiful, oh, there's Julie's cat. Attendance all full now. Everybody's accounted for. Allowing us to live, work, and play here in this beautiful part of our island. Off the top, I first would like to acknowledge the tragedy at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. As you'll see in correspondence attached to our end of our agenda, the board has sent a couple of letters to acknowledge this terrible situation. Up to date, it would look like 14 portables have been brought in from Ontario to create a new high school for the kids to hopefully start to reassemble and have some semblance of order to their day. So, trustees, I have a couple items, I think, to add to the agenda before we adopt them. Under business arising number 7, I will rise and report on the sale of the French Creek Community School. And then trustee Young has advised that she has a couple of items to add under trustee reports at the end of our agenda, item 17. So could I have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as amended? Thank you, trustee Kellogg, seconded by trustee Young. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. And to approve our consent agenda, as listed there, that the board approves the consent agenda as presented this evening. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by trustee Kellogg, seconded by trustee Young. Is there something you'd like to remove, trustee Austin? Or comment?
Yes, I'm wondering if there's two things. One is the BC budget. I'm wondering if we could ask Ron just to give us some of the highlights or lowlights from the BC budget. Somewhere in his reporting down the agenda. And
that's
just pull that out.
That's kind of a big ask to ask on relatively short notice, I think. I'll let Mr. Amos actually weigh into, because I did provide everybody a board chair report to all of you from our meeting with Minister Baird and Minister Ma on infrastructure and education. But Mr. Amos, your comfort level.
I've got notes. I've got notes and Peter's got notes. If you do, absolutely, we can comment briefly on it.
Okay, so we'll put that under trustee items at the end. And your second item?
Yes, that's all I wanted was yes.
The budget.
My other comment is around the minutes, and I will approve them this time around, but we have had in past practice, I'm not sure where it fell away, if there was dissent or if somebody had abstained, that was reflected in the minutes, and that isn't being reflected in the minutes. So just a reminder that that's what we do when something's carried unanimously, which happens most of the time, that's recorded as unanimous. And it's had been our practice that if somebody abstained or dissented, that would also be reflected. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Just a reminder.
Yep.
Thank you.
Nope, just a reminder. Okay, this consent agenda has been moved with the budget item coming out. Trustee Kellogg and trustee Young, all those in favor? Carried. There's no delegations this evening, and I've received no public questions. So business arising from the minutes. As people are well aware, December 2023, we moved to put French Creek Community School on the market, and it was successfully bid on by the Regional District of Nanaimo. And I might call upon Mr. Amos to give the fine details and the dates of it's still with land titles, but we feel we can present this as a public information at this point. Mr. Amos.
Thank you. Absolutely. So the closure, we've been leading the public a little bit behind the scenes. We've been doing this work because we didn't want to get out in front of the information before it was actually complete, but we can say confidently that as of Friday, we did have a successful closure. on the agreement, the purchase and sale agreement. There will be a public notice with the parties to RDN and ourselves that will come out later this week. But again, I am happy to report that we closed as of last Friday.
Thank you, Mr. Amos. This is a good news story for us. Onward to Mount Arrowsmith Teachers Association and Mr. Wood, are you present? I saw you check in, but can't
yeah.
Okay, great. Over to
I'm
you.
here.
Good.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Hi, Wanat, and bonsoir. Well, I just want to say thank you, Chair Flynn, for your acknowledgement of Tumbler Ridge and that tragedy, and thank you for the letter. I know that was included in a number of communications to that area, so that is always greatly appreciated. And their support was reported back to one of our president's meetings as greatly appreciated, and likely not to respond to everybody that had sent the well wishings of them, but so I appreciate that today. There is just so much news to talk about going on out there with the Olympics ending and so forth, but we will not go down that road, and I'll speak to a couple items tonight, and so we can carry on with our meeting, or you can carry on with your meeting. So I first want to acknowledge actually the excellent work of the BCTF bargaining team in their ability to work very hard to reach an agreement with BCPC and the Ministry of Education and Childcare recently. Next week, members will be voting on whether to accept the memorandum of agreement, and Madam members will be meeting Thursday to discuss these details. It is important to recognize that the agreement represents no concessionary items. The details of that agreement will likely be shared with the public after next week's provincial ratification vote. Another reminder is the provincial bargaining primarily focuses on the money type articles. These are the articles that we don't get to bargain locally if they have a money cost item, but they get to work with them at the provincial level. So with budget season in mind, I would expect the board will need to be aware of these new articles that may or will require some more funding at the local level. And it is the expectation of the association and the union that the ministry fund these improvements to the collective agreement and not expect boards to absorb these increased costs within the existing funding. This is usually where underfunding of public education can occur. So just to be aware for that. Secondly, I want to acknowledge the work of the Chilliwack Teachers Association and their local president, Reed Clark, in conjunction with the BCTF legal team in their ability to hold the remarks of a trustee, Barry Neufeld, accountable. The recent Human Rights Tribunal decision found that Mr. Neufeld invoked negative and insidious stereotypes about the 2S LGBTQ+ community as an elected school board member, thus violating the Human Rights Code. His remarks were demeaning, especially to trans people. I want to thank this board and the leadership for its commitment to inclusion and respect for all employees and students that identify as part of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. It is also this leadership that helps support teachers and students to operate in safe and inclusive school environments. This decision is a powerful affirmation of the human rights and inclusion for public. As always, I look forward to working with all education stakeholders and any environment that supports teachers to thrive will also support students to thrive. Merci. Esepqua. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Canadian Union of Public Employees, Ewan Rycroft, newly elected or re-elected president, has indicated he has no report for this evening, so I'll move to Deepak. And Marina, I can't see on
Good
my
evening. My connection's a bit unsteady, so if I do cut out, Jenna may step in, or I can submit my statement afterwards. So just cut me off if it's not coming through clearly. So thank you and good evening. We recognize this is a demanding season for trustees and district leadership, and we appreciate the time, care, and thought being invested in both policy work and budget decisions. Policies are one of the most meaningful ways trustees shape the direction of a school district on behalf of the electorate, and we trust you recognize the weight of that responsibility as policies move through modernization and review. For parents and caregivers, policies and budgets are not abstract documents. They shape what students experience every day in classrooms. We value our role to represent and evaluate the parent and represent the parent and caregiver voice, a vital and legislated partner in public education as you consider these decisions. Budgets tell a story, and right now, families are telling us that they see children with fewer supports, more classroom behavioral challenges, and limited new funding ahead. As provincial funding pressures continue, families believe the resources we do have must first focus on students and keeps our schools safe, inclusive, and supportive places to learn. Because what is not prioritized in a budget is rarely felt in a classroom. Parents identify inclusive classroom supports, strong literacy, physical, and social safety as their highest priorities. At the heart of safe and effective schools are the professionals working directly with students, teachers, support staff, and other student-facing roles, whose daily presence shapes inclusion, safety, and learning outcomes. Safety, supports, and literacy are clear areas of common ground that align with the strategic plan and can help guide trustees through another challenging budget cycle. As these conversations and decisions continue, families are asking 4 simple questions. 1, does this support literacy? 2, does this support students in classrooms? 3, does this support student safety? And 4, does this support equity? DPAC encourages trustees to shape a budget that protects safe, inclusive, and literate schools, and to ensure clear, proactive communication and meaningful opportunities for parents and caregivers to stay engaged along the way. We thank the district for inviting families to participate in the school food program survey. Caregivers appreciated being part of the conversation, and responses reinforced the importance of reducing stigma and normalizing access to food supports for all students. PACs are looking forward to having more in-depth discussions around the survey results and their school food programs with their principals. We also want to send a big thanks to Jennifer Furman for the District Principal of Learning and Support for leading last week's IEP session, info session. Families shared positive feedback about the clarity and accessibility of the information, and we hope future sessions and shared resources continue to support caregivers navigating the IEP process. DPAC will continue to bringing forward the parent and caregiver perspective to support thoughtful, student-centered decision-making. Thank you for the leadership you bring to these decisions and for the steady commitment to students, families, and the future of public education in our community. Thank you.
Thanks, Marina. And thanks for can you maybe also send your notes to Karen? Because that captures it succinctly as to how you presented. Thank you. Okay, first off the top, then now we have action items. And we have the 2026 trustee elections coming up, as most of us are all aware at this time. And we have a motion that's required for us to have a chief elections officer identified. And so I would move that the Board of Education, School District 9 Qualicum, appoint Ron Amos, Secretary Treasurer, as Chief Election Officer for the district, and Dennis J.A. Brown as Deputy Chief Election Officer for the October 17th, 2026 trustee elections. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Young. Mr. Amos, would you like to add any ancillary comments to this task?
Happy to do it. Yes, and recognizing that it'll start to increase in July. That's when obviously the nominations are starting to go out. So I look forward to obviously seeing this through. That's it.
Did we lose Mr. Amos?
I did. Can you not hear me? Hello?
Well, you just said it starts in July when the election
Okay.
package
So
and
did
then
I
we
drop
went-
out? Yeah.
drop it.
Yes. So happy to do this. Happy to see this through to the election cycle. And like I said, pleased to do it. Thank you.
Trustee Austin.
Yeah, just to confirm, I believe that Dennis Brown is the chief election officer for the municipal elections. Is that right? Or
So
he's involved with the municipal elections, isn't he?
No, Dennis Brown has
Oh.
done it, and I should have said it that way. And I'm pleased to report that Dennis is going to continue, but as the deputy. But he has done the CEO position for I think the last 5 elections for the board. I'm not sure if he's been CEO for municipals, but definitely he came with experience and clearly has been leading the charge for us at least for the last 5 elections. Thankfully, when I asked him if he could stay on to at least assist, he's happy to do it in that capacity. But yes, he has a history with us already.
Okay, thank you, Ron. That's the clarification I was looking for, because yeah, he was always the chief election officer. So now there's been a flip. I see. Thank you.
He's now Ladysmith, isn't he?
Don't know.
That's where he lives. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, seeing no further hands, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, over to you, Dr. Jory, for your superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, bonjour, squale, CMCAA. Good evening, everyone. The provincial budget was shared last week, accompanied by groans of discomfort across all sectors. Those concerned about $4 billion in increased taxation and the annual provincial debt increasing to $13 billion shared their dismay, and those who rely on public services and supports voiced their concerns and worries about upcoming freezes and reductions. This budget forecasts a drawdown of 15,000 jobs in the BC public sector over the next 3 years, and a general pause in a number of previous initiatives, so times will be tougher for sure. It was not all gloom, however. There will be some new monies to prop up community supports for families with children with exceptional needs, and expanded access to direct financial support, which is certainly a positive. There are some new monies for childcare, though these will shift towards sustaining rather than growing services. The education sector got away a little lighter than most others, we can say with some relief. The up-leveled funding will continue for some key endeavors such as literacy, as well as funding going into the newly signed BCTF MOU. However, the overall message was one of fiscal restraint. We were told to get ready to sharpen our pencils and to moderate our expectations in regard to future ministry funding. We are relieved that the False Bay build will continue on as planned and that the new childcare site at Qualicum Beach Elementary School is now underway, but we might expect that will be it for a while. Locally, we still have the pressures of increased benefit cost, replacement costs, and general inflation to manage, as well as a projected drop in enrollment due to a very large cohort set to leave in grade 12 and a very small cohort of students registered for kindergarten. While we do tend to pick up students across K-12 due to in-migration, it will likely not be enough to offset these large differences in cohort size. Fortunately, we did some very hard work last year, I'm sure you all recall, and because of that, our reductions will likely be much less profound this year. On another note, on March 4th, we'll be hosting our second traffic safety meeting. We have taken a list of to-dos as a result of our previous conversation that includes some consideration of crossing guards at Springwood, reaching out to the RDN about changes to bus pickup and drop-off at Oceanside, a review of site drainage and walking paths at that site, and a potential review of the parking lot designs at both Oceanside and Qualicum Beach, as well as a potential best routes to school program for the entire district. Very exciting, probably a lot of work, but I think worth it. More to follow on those conversations. Our communications working group also meets March 4th, and Director of Instruction Ryan Brennan is planning to share the next draft of the comms plan there before hopefully bringing it to the board table in March. Some of you may have had a chance to join the student services session last Thursday. Thank you, Marina, for your review. I thought it was very well done as well, as it covered the different types of supports in the school district, what an IEP looks like, and provided some helpful hints on how to navigate the potentially confusing journey of supporting your student. For those who missed it, it will be re-recorded in 3 parts to keep the content more specific and digestible, and then posted along with each section of slides. I think this will be a useful tool for families over the next few years, and our hope is that it becomes a go-to resource for parents and caregivers alike, and perhaps even for staff and board. In regard to district achievement, the ministry has just recently updated some sections of the public and private facing data sites. I'm now going to switch over to a PowerPoint where I've collected some of these charts, which come in various versions and forms, and will share the information with you in what I think are the cleanest versions. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. There we go. And I need to see, let's see, I see Chair Flynn. Do you see the slides there?
Yep.
Okay.
District data check-in.
There
Full
we
slide.
go. Okay.
Yep.
All right. All right. First off, we have completion rates. This is from the public-facing student success website. As those of you who have been on here before know, the orange dot is the most recent result. The orange bar is the last 5 years, and the gray zone is the typical range in the province. And so you can see we've been making some growth over the last few years. If you look down to the bottom, those dots basically span back about 20 years. The orange is the all resident student dot, and the blue is the Indigenous dot. And you can see that over time, we've kind of rambled along and made some growth. And then over the last 4 years, we've had a nice uptick and a nice tightening of the results between our Indigenous graduates and our all resident graduates. As of last year, our BC all resident number is now 94%. Our Indigenous grad rate is 93%. And our diverse abilities grad rate is now 84%. All of those demonstrating some significant gains. Good structures, lots of hard work out there, student and staff alike. And so well done, everyone. This chart expresses the data in a slightly different way. And of course, that last one was 6 years, the 6-year grad rate. This is as well. This one shows the difference in completion rate. It's one of the ones that is on the private facing site. You can see the last several years. The red shows that we were below the provincial average. And the most recent one shows that we're actually popped above for the first time in the district's history. So huzzah for us. And actually almost 2% over. This is all resident student data. If we switch over to Indigenous student data, you can see that in the past that at times we were over the provincial rates, sometimes over, sometimes above. And then in the last 4 years, we've got a nice trend line there where we have stretched away from the provincial Indigenous grad rate until we're about 15% above. Switching over to students with designations, a number of years there below. Recently, though, very competitive, slightly above, maybe a bit above, just slightly below last year, and then above again last year. And once again, relative to the provincial rate, 6 years for students with designations. So those are some of the data pieces that I get on my site. You don't get to see those publicly, but I'm sharing them with you tonight. Again, back to FSAs. This is not the most recent data. The most recent data is just coming out now. I have access to our own district data. The provincial data is not quite available yet. I suspect it's on the minister's desk waiting to be released. But a little reminder of what we've seen in recent years, and this, of course, is up to last year. above the typical grad rate, or sorry, the most typical range of results in the province. I will remind everybody, though, that over the last few years, there's been a bit of a slide in achievement in regard to the FSAs. Those gray zones have moved slightly to the left over the last couple of years, whereas ours have stayed more or less put. And therefore are above by comparison. You see we have one dot that's moved way over to the left there. Certainly not a great writing session for that group of 20 individuals. I did take a look at the brand new data that just came out. That particular group moved all the way back to the right. However, there is one of the other groups, a small number of writers that went the other direction. So I guess you can't win them all. Here we are to the grade 7s, again, over to the right side, and pretty consistently. Some of them are very strong results. Some of them are kind of mid-pack for us. And that kind of tells the story of us, heading over there, taking this quite seriously, and having a lot of processes in place to support learning in the classroom and the learning of our professionals to make sure that they have the skills that they need to make sure that our kids are literate and numerate. A couple of other pieces here that you probably haven't had access to. This is participation rate in the FSAs, and it goes back to 2018, 2019 on the left and works its way across. What you'll notice here, quite obviously, is the blue line is the province in this particular case. So the province's average participation rate started off in the low 70s, dipped during COVID into the 60s, and then has been working its way up gradually up to a high of 84% for 24, 25. We don't know what the most recent one is. For ourselves, of course, we were well above that. Took a big dip during COVID. Not sure really what happened. That was just before I got here, but we worked very hard to get that participation rate back up there, and you can see it climb and then work its way up into the 90s. Our exclusion rate for these tests is now very low. It gives us good, accurate data to work with, and gives us lots of material to really ascertain whether our students are learning what they need to know, and more importantly, to give us insight into what we need to teach and where we need to focus next. These are trend line charts that show the comparison for proficiency. I won't spend a lot of time on them. In this particular case, the province is orange and we are blue. And what you can see here is, a little bit of a varied ride over time, a little bit of, up and down. But what you see is a little bit of a slide at the provincial level. In fact, in some cases, it's fairly notable, and ours moving to the point where it's above. I do want to point a couple things out here. In this one here, we see 2021 where our participation rate went down to 52%. What you see in a corresponding chart is our actual achievement, meaning the percentage of kids who are successful, bumped up during that time. Now, you might recall these conversations from 4 years ago, but what we were noting is it's quite likely that the kids who were excluded or excluded themselves tended to not be the ones who were successful writing the test. So it kind of gives us a false sense of improvement during that time. So I said very, very, candidly at the time, let's be cautious about bump ups when our participation rate drops. Conversely, and this is an old saw from people analyzing data, if you're staying kind of flat, but your participation rate goes up, that's actually a good thing, because what you're doing is you're getting a higher number of students to that proficient level. And that's what we're trying to do as a system. And so here we go, slightly above, and then in some cases below, reminding you though, we exclude very rarely. And so often, you're going to see us be below provincial average in students with designations, because in some cases, I would say a higher percentage of our kids are writing. Here's the same charts for literacy. You're going to see similar trend lines. And one of the things you notice in here is in 22, 23, there's a dip in there. And my recollection is that we had a section that our kids struggled with, and a number of them didn't complete that part and left the session with it blank. And so one of the things we talked about as a system is, hey, let's make sure our kids are actually making an attempt here. Remind them of the importance of that, supervise them a little bit, make sure that they at least try. So let's just pay attention a little bit. And so my presumption is we're not going to see anomalies like that occur so much in the future. On to numeracy. This is one of the places we've been really focusing on lately, and you can see us go from lower typically to above in our all resident, well above in Indigenous, big jump there. And then, I'm blocked out from this slide right here, and I haven't memorized it. Yeah, up and down in our students with designations, both sides of the provincial average, and then on to grade 7 numeracy. Here we go again. There's that bump up I talked about that I think was fairly artificial, but a trend line that moves above the provincial averages for the most part. Here's data that you don't get to see very much. Here's your literacy 10. A bit of a curiosity to me. We're competitive. We're just reminding everybody that our parental income is 20% below the provincial average. We'd love to be above. We'd love to be above all the time. But recognizing that there's a big correlation between, what is happening in the household to results on standardized tests, and these are that it's good to be competitive, always working towards parity and trying to move to proficient. Our Indigenous students doing quite well, and I'm going to move this again if I can. Yeah, and then up and down in the designated students, smaller group in that cohort, and once again, high percentage of kids writing. And here's Lit 12, new process. We've only been doing this for 4 years. Again, a little below, typically a little above in Indigenous, and then below in our all resident students with designations. And here's I really wanted to share this because it wasn't out in time to include in last year's special report. All the initiatives that were going on in the district around numeracy, all of the learning that we were doing. The Carol Fullerton sessions had really great uptake. It was a focus in so many of our schools all the way along, and we saw those gains in elementary. We also know that our secondary teachers, a number of them worked very hard. They worked together. They were in groups in departments talking about their response, to the curriculum. And then we just saw this massive jump up when the data came out. We anticipated that it was going to be better. We saw more engagement in our sessions. We saw more confidence in our sessions, but until the data actually comes back to you, it's kind of hard to tell. So big jump there for all resident, over in Indigenous. And again, similar story for our students with designations. So that's your little tour for now. Stop sharing. Your mid-year check-in, so to speak, and at the end of my session here, I'm happy to answer any questions. Finally, I do want to mention, as others have, we are all thinking of the students, families, friends, and colleagues impacted by the tragedy in Tumbler Ridge. We've shared resources to help support those who may be struggling within our own district. Letters from the Minister of Education and Childcare, Lisa Beer, came out offering reassurance to families and staff, and those have been shared in recent days as well. I can confirm that we are up to date on our own emergency drills across the district, and that staff has made every effort to check in with students who may have needed extra support in this very difficult time. We had supported updated reference documents to all our principals. We are going to also be taking some time in the next 2 monthly meetings just to check in and make sure that we are all clear in our practices. The more comfortable everybody is with what to do, no matter what the emergency, the more sure we are in our responses. My colleagues, actually, it's just going to be Director Terpstra tonight, but he will provide some educational updates, though probably without fancy charts. Again, thank you to all staff for doing what you do, whether you salt the sidewalks, handle the HVAC, dig the dirt, manage the mail, switch out the switches, lead the learning, or teach, mentor, or support students in any way. Your efforts are noticed and appreciated. Thank you. Merci. Isepqua. Back to you, Chair.
Thanks, Dr. Jory. Are there any questions, trustees? Trustee Young.
Yeah, more of a comment than a question. I think I'm always looking for data points that connect. And Dr. Jory and I know very well that I kind of favor the qualitative. And I think by looking at what we mean by meaningful graduation and what we mean by the other thing that I think is equivalent, which is, are we educating citizens, toward being functioning, thriving adults? That qualitative information, I think, is really important as well. And I am aware that these data sets are very useful, and I'm hopeful that when we see the student surveys and so on and so forth, that we'll start to see that there is an intersection between those two things, the qualitative and the quantitative. So thank you, Dr. Jory. I really quite appreciate the way that you have handled the data in our district, and I think we are making progress. I guess the question that I have, with students who have designations, do we know how many are getting the completion certificate, whatever it's called, evergreen, whatever it's called, and how many are getting a true full dogwood?
Yeah. So thanks for the question through the chair. I have access to all that information. I don't have it right in front of me. Our evergreens are not included in that, right? And so they would be among the percentage of students that are considered non-grads, right? And so, as we move forward, we're not picking up, a plus to that category by having more evergreen students. That actually has the opposite effect. We are also, that does include adult grads. And for those of you unfamiliar with secondary, to have a full dogwood, you need 80 credits, and you have a large number of mandatory courses that you have to complete. The adult grad is designed specifically for students who have missed significant time in the system, and it consists of just 5 courses and is sort of a stopgap for kids who need the credential but probably aren't planning to go on to post-secondary. And we have done, I think, great work in limiting the number of adult grads. And I'll give the most profound example, and that's our PASS program that previously graduated a fairly low percentage of students, and all of them would have been adult grads. And now, proportionately, more and more students are graduating, and more of those students have the full dogwood, which is excellent progress. If we look at the use of adult dogwood over time, it does fluctuate. But what I can tell you is that it doesn't have any significant impact on our overall achievement. It's stayed fairly consistent and within a range there. We do use it. I don't want to badmouth it. It's very important tool for certain students, but it should not be overused. And I can tell you with great assurance that we are not overusing it.
Trustee Austin.
Yeah, I think just to actually pick up on what Elaine and Peter have been saying is, this is FSA data, which is just one piece of data. There's other sources that our teachers and local schools are using. They're there's local data, there's their own anecdotal data, there's just so the FSA results are just one piece and one point and one point in time. So
Thank you, Trustee Austin. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Jory. Now over to educational programs update, and we're going to lean heavily on Director of Instruction, Mr. Terpstra.
Good evening, everyone. I get to talk about the stories, the qualitative stories about the data and how we get to that data, and the work really that we're talking about is the work of our teachers in the classroom every day, our education assistants, and our principals and vice principals. The first thing I'm going to from the desk of Associate Superintendent Wilson. Happy to announce the food survey has over 480 responses, and schools will be getting their individual school results very shortly in the next week or so. Also, responding to DPAC and their support for literacy. I just want to go over literacy is we have a working group. We also use SEAC for feedback, which is our Curriculum Implementation Advisory Committee. So just a highlight of some of the literacy events, and this is coming out of the initiative from the Ministry of Education. On March 4th, we have a kindergarten meeting and focusing, as we have a long history of gathering our kindergarten teachers from progressions to practice. On April 17th, we're bringing back our intermediate middle years teachers, grades 7, 8, 9, to focus on literacy in the middle years using our local Indigenous knowledge. April 30th, we have 2 sessions, primary teacher meeting, intentional teaching using learning progressions. And then we have an intermediate teachers meeting with stronger reading starts here. Then back to kindergarten, May 6th, May 28th, we're actually bringing in our grade 7 and 8 teachers to focus on literacy and successful transitions. And something I'm going to talk about later is as the whole organization and system prepares our grade 7s for going into high school, this is going to be an opportunity to focus on literacy and actually get all of our grade 7 and 8 teachers together. June 3rd, as people are probably aware, we had K literacy screeners this year for the first time, as per ministry policy, and that is expanding in September to grades 1 to 3. And so June 3rd and 4th, we're going to have in-servicing on the universal screeners from grades 1 through 3. So awesome literacy initiatives coming up by the team. One of my other portfolios is French immersion, and we have the French Advisory Committee just met last night. And besides going over the program and always focusing on how to improve the French immersion program, I'm happy to report that the committee continued to support. If people remember, about 4 or 5 years ago, we added a Social Studies 12 course to the program to make sure that we have a bilingual program for the whole grade 12 year, both semesters all the way through the system. And this provides students with an opportunity. Right now we take History 12. So I'm happy to report that. Other initiatives I'd like to tell you about, we shared our AI docs with the Ed Committee, and those will be going out to the system soon. There's a technology education plan coming up that next week it'll be going to SEAC for feedback, then back to the working group to make changes based on that feedback, and then we'll be presenting it in Ed Committee, hopefully for the April meeting, Trustee Young. And then Also, our district, as we know, has lots of, we host lots of events for the island. And we have the Island Leadership Coalition. We hosted this at the Beach Club. Every year we have 6 teachers, informal leaders who are interested in formal leadership participating in this event. It's twice a year. There's teacher educators from all over the island, and people supporting them in positions like myself. And I'm happy to say we of course did the introduction. Associate Superintendent did the territorial acknowledgement. Jesse Rakalma challenged our future leaders and educators on the importance of Indigenous education and being responsible to the Truth and Reconciliation. And then our own Jessica Andridge, who's a teacher in the Indigenous education, shared another part of the timeline project in one of the videos with the group. So really good showing for our district. High school, just want to let people know it's course selection time. I did go to both the websites because I wanted to be really sure that this information's out there for parents, but because we get those questions all the time. In February, grade 7s to 8 to 9, there's a couple elective choices for those students, but really in grade 9, transitioning to 10, the grad program, and grade 11. 10 to 11 and 11 to 12, those are where the big choices are made. So parents, be aware your kids are making these choices, ask them about their choices. All of this happens in a program called My Blueprint. You can get them to log you in, and really courses are connected to careers, paths to post-secondary paths. And it's a really awesome thing. So it's guided. Kids go through assemblies with their counselors. But there's lots of information and decisions being made right now in the secondary. The secondaries are also visiting all of the elementary schools as we speak and presenting the grade 8 options and the transition plan. Less choices there, but some choices like music programs, hockey program at Bolinas, some of the and of course French immersion will have a different little presentation on that program. And back to, that's all I have to report. I did want to touch back to French immersion and working with the French Advisory Committee. One of the things that we do listen to our parents, and they're part of that committee and a valued part. And we reinstated the special kindergarten French immersion session this year at Oceanside. So I'd like to thank both the administrators at Oceanside, Jen Nichols, and 4 teachers that supported sharing information about that program. And then also the high school in their open houses. Both high schools had open houses earlier this month. And at the Bolinas session, I had a special session for the French immersions transitioning to the high school program. So long report. I'll end it there. Thanks, everyone.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Wow, all those dates. Can't wait to see the minutes because I couldn't write it down fast enough. That's for sure. Trustees, are there any questions of Mr. Terpstra? Okay, seeing none, now you can catch your breath and have a drink of water. And Associate Superintendent Ms. Wilson is here in the background, but unfortunately she fell off her horse and is somewhat compromised. And so thank you, Mr. Terpstra, for carrying the load. Education Committee of the Whole, Trustee Young, I'll turn it over to you. Pages 16 and 17 are your notes. And anything you would like to highlight.
Oh, well, there's a whole bunch of things I'd like to highlight because the subject of literacy just came up. And if there was a theme for last month's, not the February meeting, but the meeting before, it was literacy. And so if you can go back to that, we heard all of the things that are going on in the district with our literacy, one of our literacy leads. And The other thing I wanted to highlight was another kind of steps to kindergarten thing that's coming up in April is Pete the Cat. And I love Pete the Cat, not because it's Pete the Cat, but because the children who are registered for kindergarten, and we need you out there getting the children registered for kindergarten, they all get invitations and they're treated like little adults, and it's really cool.
And the invitation is in the mail. The
Yes.
invitation is in the mail. It's not by
Mailing is
computer.
very important to young
It
people.
is. Exactly.
Anyway, yeah. So having highlighted all of that, this month, the theme, if there was a theme, was around belonging. And I, as a former counselor, believe that belonging is the first step to learning, that we have to feel that we belong. And that brings us to inclusive practice, including social emotional inclusion. And I think the minister's letter that recently came out alludes to what I call the alphabet people, the gay, straight, lesbian, trans, and et cetera, two-spirited, et cetera. And I think that might have been one of the many issues at the Tumbler Ridge event. Please watch your children, parents, at this point. I know being a counselor, it can be a very difficult time for some students. So please keep an eye on your children. Beyond that, we heard from a number of different programs. Stuff is there. We're going to continue with the AI stuff next time, I guess, because that's what I just heard. I love working with the director of instruction because he gives me these highlights. And the only other thing is, remember that Footloose is happening at Bolinas, and I'm going tomorrow night. So if you want a review, give me a holler the day after, and I'll give you a review. I think that's about all. Brain and Belonging. Man, oh man, that was a fabulous piece. If you haven't looked at Bruce Perry's work, really important work in neurodevelopmental psychology, basically, and the psychology of learning. So that's enough out of me.
Thanks, Trustee Young. Trustee Austin, question?
Thanks very much, Elaine. I'm also going to Footloose tomorrow, so I'll see you there. And I just wanted to thank you and Karen. Shout out to Karen too for incorporating so many links to some of the other resources and where you're pointing to in the recording, where to look for things on the recording as well. That's just excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee
Yeah,
Austin.
I'll just highlight Karen on that, because normally it's the director of instruction, Mr. Terpstra, who I rely on to do that. But he happened to be away from the district or doing something else, and Karen stepped in and did an awesome job. So thank you very much, Karen.
Okay, Finance and Operations Committee of the Whole, Trustee Kellogg, page 18 to 20 is your report.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report on. I just that it's budget time and it's very busy, and also operations is also very busy, and the report from our last meeting is included in the agenda, and yeah.
Great. Trustee Young, do you have your hand up again, or were you just sort of? Okay, Trustee Austin.
Just a quick question, and I don't know if Ron, you'd be able to answer this one yet, but because it's mentioned in the Fin and Ops report, do you know if this budget coming down from the province will have any effect on the playgrounds or playgrounds going forward?
Oh, playgrounds. Oh.
Specifically to that,
Yeah.
what we've learned is there's a minor increases in all of the in all of the minor capital projects. There's been some money added to each of them, and that does include the PEP or the playground equipment projects.
Program.
Program, thank you. So there's no pause on it, I guess is what I'm getting at. So as best we know, there's little bit of additional money to the 5 million that I alluded to in the committee notes. So we'll know better tomorrow, to be honest. Director of Operations Phil Monroe and myself have a scheduled call with Capital Branch, and they'll give us sort of an initial heads up of what plans or what plans can be put forward so that ops and director ops can start planning the RFPs and that sort of thing, recognizing that we won't get the letter itself until mid-March, but we will at least get a heads up for planning purposes tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Fingers crossed then. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Okay. Policy Committee of the Whole. We had a very, very engaged meeting of everyone who attended the Policy Committee. Your notes span quite a large segment of your agenda this evening. The formality of the ones we have before us tonight, I think, were recorded exceptionally well by our secretary, Karen Hurt. The notes were just awesome, and I couldn't write fast enough for her. Off the top, though, let's just all note that volunteers in schools had a tremendous amount of discussion at the table. And we have put it to the next meeting so that we can have even more discussion. And the crux of the matter is criminal record checks. So just so that everybody is still staying tuned to that, that is where volunteers in schools sits. So we'll start off this evening with Board Policy 500, communicating student learning. And I'll move that the Board of Education, School District Stand approve first reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy, communicating student learning. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Young. Are there any comments, questions, trustees? Trustee Young.
I have some general comments, and thank you for that report. It was detailed, and I really appreciated it. So that's number one. I am going to repeat a little bit of what I said at the policy committee meeting. I am willing to move all of the 500s forward. And what I look for in the first reading is, does this policy reflect the values and beliefs of the current board, and does it reflect the values and beliefs of the previous policy? And all of these do, as far as I'm concerned. The other thing is that this gets the policies out in the public eye. And what I personally expect as a trustee is that each one of our partner groups, and I realize that QP's not here tonight, but maybe there's somebody from QP here.
Trish is there. Trish.
Oh, good. Okay, I knew I'd seen somebody. This allows the partner groups to go out to their membership and say, okay, well, what feedback do you have? For me personally, I am going to work during spring break to work through all of these policies in detail and make a written copy to Chair Flynn and to Superintendent Jory, who's the senior management person on policy, so that we don't have to spend a lot of time at meetings going through all of the things that I want to say. And my motivation for doing that is we're on a very tight schedule. What we're doing is we're updating all of our policies. The last time we did this, it was over a 3 to 4 year period, and we're trying to do it now over a much shorter period. And I want that to work, so I am going to do my best to make it work. Thank you.
Okay, I think, well, because I'd be repeating myself 10 times. what is the will of the board to accept first reading, a friendly amendment to my motion to accept first reading of policies 500 through to policy 510, as per Trustee Young's commentary. Is there anyone who is adverse to that? Trustee Austin.
No, I was just signaling, I think that's fine. I think Elaine explained it very well. First reading just is technically gets it out there for the public and waiting for feedback. And the essence of the policy is there. Hopefully it's captured the, the values of the district, but it's an opportunity then for people to give feedback on all of that. So I'm not opposed to that amendment at all.
Okay, friendly amendment has seen no further hands on that. Shall I call a question on the motion to receive first reading for policies 500 through to 510? All those in favor? And I don't see Barry's hand, but I'm presuming he was set up. Okay, Carrie. Thank you very much. Expedites a lot of things for us this evening. I'll now move then to policy 301, living wage. And this motion is here before you tonight for second reading, and I would move that the Board of Education, School District Qualicum, approves second reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 301, living wage. Could I have a seconder, please? Trustee Kellogg. Any questions? Moving it to second reading. All those in favor? Carried. Policy 302, community and volunteer involvement.
Hang on. Sorry, Trustee Flynn. Just to Trustee Austin's point, I am abstaining at this point.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Oh, you're abstaining to that last one on second reading?
Living wage. Yep. Policy 302, community and volunteer involvement, that the Board of Education is going to approve second reading to adopt the revisions to board policy, community and volunteer involvement. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Young. Any comments, trustees? Trustee Young.
Me again. So I think there were some changes that we were gonna make that didn't get in here. And so I'm just gonna read them out. I think we were gonna add students under purpose. I think under guiding principles 2E, professional responsibilities of board and district staff. And then I thought under scope of volunteer involvement, instead of saying under E, advisory or parent caregiver groups, we were going to be more prescriptive and say PACs, DPACs. I could be wrong on all of that, but that's the notes I've got.
Okay, let's bring it up then again at policy committee of the whole. And I think the PAC and DPAC one was superseded by other places that DPAC are advisory plus a school act. That's my off the top commentary at that point, but okay, we've got them noted. But as we're just a second reading, we have another policy committee of the whole in April, and we can revisit that. Thank you for your comments. Are there any further comments, trustees? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Second reading, Trustee Kellogg. Abstaining or contrary?
Contrary.
Okay. So it's carried. Enhancing student learning, policy 303, second reading to adopt the revision of board policy 303, enhancing student learning. Could I have a seconder, please, trustees? Thank you, Trustee Young. Any further comments, trustees? Trustee Curley, I'm presuming your hand's up from voting on the last one. Okay, thank you. Trustee Young.
Yeah, me again. Just one little tiny edit, and you might want to do this ahead of the, oh, there's another one. Two little tiny edits to be done. Yeah, on the first page under guiding principles F, alignment with strategic priorities. We've used priorities, we've used pillars, and then we've used strategic priorities again in A. I think we should probably have the same language throughout. So choose, change core pillars back to strategic priorities, or
Go the other way.
Or go the other way. Yeah,
Okay.
pretty simple. And then
Yep.
my little thing on the second part of this, evidence and indicators of success on the second page, number 5, my thing under E, graduation results and meaningful completion leading to educated citizenry. You know, I'm going to keep harping on that one, so feel free.
Okay. Bring it up one more time at policy committee of the whole.
I will if
See.
it's not there. Yeah.
Okay, no, duly noted. It's ministry terminology. That's what we're, part of our mandate is educated citizen. Okay. I'll call a question. All those in favor of moving this from second reading? Thank you. Trustees carried. Okay, now I didn't print off all the right documents. I have to go to my electronic version. Okay, board policy 304, school closure, consolidation and reconfiguration of the board. I move that the Board of Education School District 9 approve second reading to adopt the revisions board policy 304, school closure, consolidation and reconfiguration. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Any comments? Things to raise again? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. 305, public interest disclosure, that the Board of Education approve second reading to adopt revisions to board policy 305, public interest disclosure. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Trustee Young.
Oh, me again. Okay, so this is something that I picked up looking at this again in preparation for the meeting. I'm a little uncomfortable with the word serious. I think serious is one of those, as you call them, Board Chair Flynn, weasel words. And it's used in this policy, and I don't know if it's used in this policy because it's based on a provincial template but we need to somehow nail down what we mean by serious, I think. And I will raise it again.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But as well, this is one that comes from a lot of statutes and stuff that we have to ministerial thing. So let's flag it and we'll do a check on serious. Yes, the idea of serious. Call a question. All those in favor to moving this on? Thanks very much, everyone. So resolution of student and parent caregiver complaints. The Board of Education School District 9 approve third and final reading to adopt the revisions to Board Policy 710, resolution of student parent caregiver complaints and its attendant administrative procedure. Again, I thank the DPAC, and I think this time we probably have the proper flow chart at the back of the policy. And could I have a seconder, please, for this one? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Are there any further questions? Trustee Austin.
Thank you. I think this is just a good time to, as a reminder, this is third reading, which will make this official policy within the district. Now it'll be done and dusted. Trustees, within their mandate of at least their term in their elected office, try and revisit all the policies. So it would come back within maybe the next 4 years. But I want to remind people that if something arises or somebody is requesting a substantial change, there is a form and it can always come back to the policy committee. fill in the form, say what your changes are, and it could come back to the policy committee. So all these policies are still very organic, and they can shift and change as our times shift and change, though it's third reading and will become official policy if it goes through. It doesn't mean it can't be revisited until 4 years or so.
Yep, absolutely true. Policy revisions and amendments, and I don't know the actual when it is. Trustee Young.
Yeah, I went through this again and I found some things that I think we might consider tonight. I'm sorry. So page 2 of 4 on the policy end of things, item 4.4, down at the bottom, it says the board's role is governance, not operational dispute resolution. I think we need to maybe define what we mean by that. And I have suggested wording. Engaging board members before their time may prejudice board members' ability to engage in further involvement. And what I'm getting at there is the board is the final arbitrator before it goes provincial. If we've heard all about the dispute before through an email or something like that, it may compromise our ability to be fair and judicial in that process. So that's one. And then the other thing I noticed, and this is really for Superintendent Jory, because APs can be changed at any time with notice, is that it appears that on the first page of the admin procedure, there's a whole bunch of stuff that just repeats the policy. And I'm wondering if item number 2, guiding principles, 3, scope, and 4, communication expectations, you might want to take those out just for brevity. I think the purpose probably should stay there, but the rest of them. So there you go.
Okay, the will of the board. I mean, I don't see the wording that you have created for the governance piece at this time. So if the board wishes, then we would vote down third reading, and then the policy committee can be directed to your comments at the next meeting. Trustee Austin.
Thank you, Elaine, for your attention to detail on these things. Policy is important. And I think you have mentioned something that I think, from my perspective, anyway, warrants it going back to policy committee to at least have that discussion with all our partner groups and amongst ourselves. So I'm amenable to this not passing tonight and coming back to policy.
Okay, basically we then have to do the vote because it's been called. All those in favor of third reading and final reading of board policy 710. Those in favor. So it is carried. 2 abstentions or negative votes. How would you like it recorded in the minutes? Trustee Young and Trustee Austin.
Negative for me.
Okay. Trustee Austin?
Yeah, also negative for me. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that is all the policy for this evening. We have no reports from representative organization or reports from representatives to outside organizations. That's a mouthful. So we'll move on to trustee items. First off, the trustees met with the Indigenous Education Council about a week ago now, and we had a very lovely time together, sharing our stories, our pasts, our presents, our reasons for doing our work as trustees, and theirs as well as representatives of their nations to coming to the table and talk about education. We shared a meal. We had hoped to do a bit of an overview on strategic planning and the upcoming budget, but time didn't allow us to proceed with that. So that will be rescheduled for a later date. Trustee remuneration and benefits discussion. There's some. I direct you to pages 83 to 85 of your package. This is a business of the board that needs to be taken place by the present board. This at this point is information and discussion. So it's the information that has been gleaned at this point from past, and then also our BCSTA does a provincial analysis of trustee remuneration that we can then take into account. That document won't be available till April or mid to late April. But this is landing here for folks to understand that this is the work of the board prior to our election in October proceeding, that the remuneration is set accordingly in advance of that, so that it is transparent and is not influenced by outside factors. At this point, if trustees want to add comment, they can, but I think we're waiting for some more information to come forward to formalize an actual a recommendation for consideration by the board as to the level of remuneration for chair, vice chair, and trustees. Are there any comments, trustees? Trustee Kellogg? Trustee Kellogg?
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I actually brought this forward. I think that trustee work's important. We work hard, and we will see how it ends up when we get some reports from the BCSTA. So I just thought it was appropriate to bring it forward at this time, and we'll see where it lands. I also had inquired about benefits for trustees. I think that's an important thing. I know that benefits are costly, but it could be a package that perhaps is would not include life insurance, but dental, medication, glasses, those kind of things. Trustees are just like anybody else. They need benefits if they need things, or they're injured, and they need that kind of support. So I just wanted to say that I had brought this forward, and I'm hoping that we'll look at it seriously, and people will realize that this is a job, and sometimes it can be quite time consuming. And yeah, I just think that I'm really pleased that we're going to be looking at it. Thanks.
Thanks, Trustee Kellogg. Any other comments, trustees, at this point? I'm sure we'll be bringing a more fulsome report, although you do have some of the data to date. Trustee Austin.
Yeah, I hope to hear from our partner groups over the next little while. I'd like to hear what they have to say and what their thoughts are on this. Thank you.
Thanks, Trustee Austin. Okay, encourage our partner groups to weigh in. No new and unfinished business. I noted before. Oh, sorry, Trustee Young, you had two items you wanted to bring forward: the ski competition and the Brant Festival. Go for it. And then BC budget. Sorry
about that. Thanks for reminding me, because I've got piles of paper all over the place here. Yeah, so two things. First of all, a shout out to the Bolinas young women's ski team. I believe they are in provincial finals that were supposed to be held at our own Mount Washington, but because of the lack of snow, which may have changed now, they're going up north. And I'd be really curious to hear what their perceptions of being off the island and being in a different community are. So, gee whiz, Mr. Terpstra, maybe we'll get them to come and talk to us at the Ed Committee meeting. That'd be really fun. And then the other thing that's going on in the future is on March the 5th, which is a week from Tuesday, the Brant Festival is happening at Qualicum Beach Elementary School. I believe it's all day. I will endeavor to be there in the afternoon for a while. And it's just a chance for all of our students to understand a little bit more about the Brants and the ecology and the herring run and all of that stuff that happens in the next few months in the world of nature.
In their backyard.
In
Trustee
their
Austin.
backyard, yeah.
Can I just ask for clarification on that, Elaine? Because I hadn't heard that. Is this Arrowview has the last couple of years done their part as part of the Brant Festival? Is this in addition to the one at Arrowview, or is it sort of being shifted to Qualicum Elementary, or you know?
I believe it's been shifted. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it's been shifted. So I don't know if anybody else knows, but I do know that Qualicum Beach Elementary is hosting it this year.
Okay, sorry I skipped over an item. The BCSTA Provincial Council was held last weekend or Friday morning. This is a mid meeting of the BC School Trustees Association in between our annual general meeting held twice a year in February and October. And the February meeting is to mainly focus on the budget for the BCSTA for the following year. And I'm pleased to report that there'll be no fee surcharge or addition to our fees that we pay per student to our participation at the BC School Trustees Association. And that was the bulk of the proceedings on Friday morning. So we've dealt with that. Mr. Amos, do you want to flesh out any further from Dr. Jory's remarks on the budget for Trustee Austin?
No, I think, yeah, absolutely. I think he did a very good job kind of condensing it down. Certainly some of the things that I wrote down over and above what he had mentioned was it was a measured budget. That was definitely how they themed it. Prioritizing of core budgets, health and education were protected, as it were. Commitment to reduce, and again, Superintendent Jory mentioned this, is commitment to reduce the broader public sector, 15,000 employees, pardon me, over 3 years. But no plan to ask school districts to reduce except to continue to find efficiencies. Infrastructure slowed down. I think we've all heard of some of the projects within health that have been paused or delayed in terms of the timing of them. I talked about modest expectations for some of the capital programming, AFG, our annual facility grant, modest increases in that domain, small lifts in the block, which is our envelope of funding. That's the per pupil funding, including CEF, including childcare. Again, messaging on the capital side, no new spaces funding for BC. This is the daycares. We have as Superintendent Jory spoke to, Qualicum Beach Elementary is on the books and carrying on. It has been approved and it is in progress. We had one on the books for consideration for the Winchelsea. We were notified last week that it's been paused along with all other new spaces daycare funding. But they are adding they are adding a small complement or a small program for in-class or in-school capital needs. So again, more information on that would be forthcoming. One that will hit families, no expansion of the $10 a day daycare program. Recognizing that they needed to prioritize funding to delivery of spaces on school grounds, and are pausing, if you want, the expansion of the $10 a day daycare. Where are we at? Feeding Futures continuing, foreseeable future, inclusive of the federal funding. We talked about it at budget. The 3-year rotating budget for Feeding Futures being matched by the federal government. I've heard that again, this is an aside to the provincial budget, but I do recall the federal funding will be in perpetuity. I think Prime Minister Carney announced maybe a couple of months ago. I indicated earlier, minor capital programs have increased modestly. One messaging that in that whole announcement of the federal or the provincial budget, pending the results of the BCTF and school district ratification of the BCTF collective agreement, no wage increases have been embedded in the budget yet. Again, recognizing that they have to let the process go forward. Once and if that's been ratified, then the funding will come to the school districts via a special grant. And so with once the ratification takes place, the collective agreement is effective July 1, 2025. So there will be retro pay, obviously, against the current year's budget. And then the other messaging is it's not known at this time whether or not exempt staff will be covered within the funding. I think that's it.
Trustee Young.
Yeah, I've kind of lost track of what happened with our seamless childcare program. So that, I guess that's a question probably
It has 1 more year to go, and then
it has
it
one
will.
more year.
Yeah.
And then there doesn't seem to be.
We are in its last year.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we talk about modest increases, my hunch is they don't really keep up with even inflationary pressure. I know they haven't in the past. So we still got some pressures. And I guess the other question I had, and this is a result of, my hiking buddy being an accountant, is there going to be an impact on our budget around the changes to the provincial sales tax?
Interesting that question was asked at BCSTA, and BC ASBO's doing some work into that with the BCSTA because yes, new things were added, but they're not sure of the impact. More to come. And I think quite quickly. Yep. Trustee Austin, does that expand on things of your queries on budget, or gives you enough?
Yes, thank you very
get a
much,
sense?
Peter.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Peter and Ron, for addressing that. And I'm sure it'll be talked about much more here during our
Oh, yeah.
budget process. So, but thank
Yep.
you for that overview.
Great. Moving along then, board correspondence and media. We've touched on that already this evening, along with 2 letters to look for assistance for the child care facility at Qualicum Beach. So I now move to public question period. Are there any questions, folks? Matt.
Thanks, Chair Flynn. I guess a question for Ron. I wonder if you can help me understand the difference between finding efficiencies and decreased funding.
Oh, you could get a prize if you could do that.
Well, the difference is in the past, if you recall, they used to have there was administrative savings, low-hanging fruit terminology.
Yeah.
And so those came with specific asks from school districts to find reductions and identify reductions. And we used to have to, again, it was a couple of years, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, when they said to us, find, I think it was 3% of your administrative savings and identify them. And you were asked to identify it because they withheld that money from your operating grants. So it was a planned reduction. It was with the intent of finding this low-hanging fruit. So the ministry is being asked to find efficiencies. The ministry is being asked and needs to gain the internal workings of the ministry. This is their administrative staff et al. They are being asked to reduce and find efficiencies, and all they're really saying to school districts at this point is continue to find the efficiencies, continue to find the savings within the money we give you. So
They're
there's
not
no,
giving us
so there won't be a
targets.
line item. Yeah, so it's not anticipated that there'll be a line item within our operating grants that says minus some value. Is that help?
Right. Yeah, a little bit. That's a better answer than I was anticipating, to be honest with you. Yeah, it'd be interesting to, when you find efficiencies, I wonder if they consider the deficiencies that will be left behind on the front lines. So that's my piece. But I appreciate that, Ron. Thanks.
Well, again, the commentary that I'd have is it's not as though we are
Extravagant.
we're extravagant by any means. This is something we do, as Superintendent Jory spoke to already, is we made some very deep cuts last year because we're getting behind on some of the escalating costs that are perpetual. They just keep continuing, and they're not being funded to the level that they need to be. I shared it with our board and with our senior leaders a recent report the BC ASBO did on behalf of a survey that they sent out that talked about what are the pressures that you do in doing your budget are finding. What is common language? What is a common theme? And so I did share it out with our, like I said, the board and senior leaders, and it's not any different than what we in our local conversations of budget are experiencing. Replacement cost escalation, budgetary, benefit cost escalation beyond what is determined with bargain funding. All those themes that we speak to at the budget table are being multiplied by 60 across all the districts. And I guess collectively across globally in terms of the fact that these things are affecting a lot of public entities, including K-12 education. So yes, it's not as though we aren't going to continue to look and refine and find efficiencies, and certainly some of the messaging that even in the last couple of years, the work that O&M, Director of Operations, has been able to do within the Transportation Department, finding efficiencies with our DDCs in terms of being able to reduce our utility burden. All these things allow us to preserve other things that are core to what we do. And so it doesn't fall on deaf ears when they say this to find efficiencies, because it's what we do. It's how we have to run our business in a sense, to be basically to, we know the board has the priority of keeping these cuts from the classroom. And sometimes it's necessary. Again, if we lose kids, we lose teachers sometimes, but it's the messaging isn't any different than what we've been experiencing for the past number of years in terms of doing what we can to reduce accordingly, and again, keeping it away from the classrooms.
Yeah, sometimes finding those efficiencies results in staffing not being replaced, and that is not great news for the system. So that's kind of where I was leaning towards with the deficiencies of finding efficiencies.
Yep. No, good point. Good point. Please use your raise hand feature. I can't see everybody. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Could I ask for a mover to adjourn? Thank you, Trustee Kellogg. Have a pleasant evening, folks, and thanks for joining us.